Hey everybody, we're going to start the session now. I hope everybody can hear and see me clearly. In case you can't, just let us know in the chat. We'll try to do something about it. Any which ways, welcome to the HP Indigo Masterclass. It's a pleasure to see all of you join us on a Thursday evening. I'm Kavan, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Indiefolio Network, and I'll be your host and moderator for the day. For everybody who's attending our HP Indigo series for the first time, HP Indigo and Indiefolio Network have collaborated on a campaign called Innovate Possibilities with the aim of educating the creative community about the impact you guys can have on the future of printmaking. Very often, we hear things like print is dead, and we also covered a bunch of these things in our in our last session. And as we know, it's far from the truth. The innovations in the printing industry have been significant over the past few years. And we have the fantastic folks from HP and, of course, Mr. Yadu Chaudhary come and break them for us. We have a short and a sweet session planned out for you guys. We'll be starting off with a moderated session with Mr. Yadu Chaudhary. Then we will have a session by Mr. Appadurai from HP. And then we'll have a combined panel discussion where we'll be able to address all your answers, all your questions and answers. So that's the whole agenda for you for today. So I'll start off the session by introducing Mr. Itu Chaudhary. Itu has over 2 decades of experience in design. And in these several years, Itu and his team have worked with some fantastic brands on very interesting domains, from packaging and editorial to branding, and even very recently digital. It's very possible that you have even held something Itu has designed, be it the Himalaya packaging bottles to the Wildstone deodorants to one of the many redesigns Itu has done on the Times of India newspapers. So it's a pleasure and it's an honor to introduce Itu Chaudhary here. So welcome, Itu. Hey, Itu, I think you're on mute. Yeah. Hey,
Yes,
how are you?
sorry. I'm good, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Fantastic, Itu. So for everybody, we are having a fireside chat with Itu. We have a bunch of questions we've curated from all you guys, which I think you had asked us during the registration process. And there are a bunch of questions even we internally have curated for you. So Itu, I'll get started with the session right away. The first question, which I have for you is that you've been someone who's been focusing on print as a design practice for a while. I wanted to know what significant changes have you seen yourself in the market, and how did you adapt to them over the several years you've been running Itu Chaudhary Design?
Well, when you said several things about me, one of the things that you said was it's 2 decades of experience, so it's substantially longer than that.
Okay.
And as a result, I have seen print from the time when there was no digital typesetting even. So I think most of your audience wouldn't even know what typesetting is because they do it themselves. But time was, and for most of human history, this was not so. Somebody else set type for you, and he was called many things. Usually unprintable, but sometimes printable. He was called a printer, he was called a publisher, there were many things. And then later on, when it became a service, he was called a typesetter. So I've seen from the time when I've made lots of artworks by hand, which were made by pasting up letters, by buying type as a physical product, right down to every single stage of the evolution of digital typesetting.
Fantastic.
Right down to today and the web. So I mean, the only reason that we've done a lot of print is because when I started working, that there wasn't anything else. Everything was print of some kind. But then, having said that, we've worked in space design. We've done all sorts of things. So it's not just print. So I don't know, when you say the market, are you referring to the last 5 years, or are you referring to the last 50?
Well, I think definitely I would say in the last 10 to 12 years, something closer to what the audience is, here today. What can you see? What's the change you've seen, and how have you adapted with everything new coming in?
So, actually, not that much new has come in. What you're seeing is incremental improvements on what was there before. The very nature of the print industry is that it's slow to change. We've been around for, well, if you count Gutenberg, we've been around for roughly 600 years, 550, 570 years, right? So we're an industry that's slow to change. Investments tend to be very large. So you have many different things happening. So now while you have a small printer, somebody does a small digital run, he may use a machine that is very, very different from the Indigo, and probably costs a tiny fraction of the Indigo, and does well, not as much as the Indigo can do, but then everyone doesn't want everything all the time. So that kind of thing is also happening, and otherwise investments in high volume print, I mean, the economics really haven't changed that much. So in fact, they've only gotten more and more favorable. More and more that you see in print, in so-called traditional print, what you're seeing is a trend for smaller and smaller volumes, and it's just not at all difficult to ask a printer for a small run. This used to be impossible at a certain time. तो अभी सब धीरे धीरे लाइन में आ गए हैं. So I mean, the recognition that small run is a reality is a recognition that has been aided in part by the digital world. So it's digital printing that has become a reality, and I think that's the big change I would say, that it's become something that's a no-brainer option. People trust it sufficiently to not ask too many questions about हो सकता है कि नहीं हो सकता है, छपेगा नहीं छपेगा. People airily say digital में कर देंगे. So the kind of cautions that exist with working with traditional offset printing are obviously lifted. So it took some time for that to happen. If you look at the evolution of digital proofing, for example, so I was one of the very early people to push this thing in the early 2000s. Okay, so that's not when I started. I'm not 2 decades old. So in the early 2000s, I was 40 plus years old. Because I'm 300 years old now. So the point is that at that time it was difficult to get printers to accept a digital proof. They would say ये तो digital है, ये तो inkjet में छपा है, ये तो ये है, ये तो वो. They'd say all sorts of things. They'd say ये तो laser वाला है, or whatever, So I used to at that time tell them that आप जब मशीन का प्रूफ देते हो, ऑफसेट मशीन का प्रूफ देते हो, तो उसमें क्या खास बात है. मतलब वो भी तो किसी और के मशीन पे हुआ है, तो वो आप क्या, वो उसको भी तो इंटरप्रेट करना पड़ता है, उसको भी जांचना पड़ता है. सो जजमेंट, इंटरप्रिटेशन, दीज थिंग्स एग्जिस्ट. दे एग्जिस्ट फॉर द डिजिटल प्रूफ एंड दे एग्जिस्ट फॉर द ट्रेडिशनल प्रूफ. सो इट टुक अ व्हाइल. नाउ नो वन blinks an eyelid. No one. So what's generally happened is a kind of mainstreaming process. I don't think there's some leapfrogging of progress, or there's some amazingly different things. If at all, what you have is an industry which provides a lot of solutions, which are still looking for problems. So it's very much the other way around. It's very much the case that say HP or other people are trying to tell people, this is possible, that's possible, and people are just listening. And it's not like this has revolutionized everything. So I'm a big booster for digital printing. I don't need that sold to me. I'm a booster for everything digital. Right.
So I think one big highlight Itu, which I could really understand is things which at least me and my design
Mainstreaming. One word. Mainstreaming.
mainstreaming. Yes, I think accessibility, mainstreaming, I think
Yeah.
are definitely things where I remember that I had one of my father's friends who was into this business. It was quite odd when I went ahead and I printed a dozen two t-shirts for my college in about 7-8 years ago, and they were like, "Wow, that's crazy!" Because for him, that bulk quantity was very necessary. So I think that's definitely been a big change, which we've seen. Now, coming to the next interesting thing, I think mainstreaming and accessibility is definitely something which I can hear. And because of that, I think what's happened is that even today, if we were to even talk about multiple kinds of printing, even 3D printing can happen at home today. So what's happening is a lot of people want to experiment more, want to get their hands more dirty when it comes to creating these things at home. You've been someone who's, of course, even designed magazines and large newspapers with a heavy distribution. I wanted to ask you, and this is actually a very common question we've been asked, is how do you plan? How can you plan better for a print heavy project? Are there any things which you recommend which designers can keep a tab of to ensure that the end output and the end execution is as good as you imagine it to be?
So I'll take that question to mean just about the part that deals with reproduction or printing, because when we start out thinking about a newspaper or magazine, we're not really thinking about it as a print project. We're thinking about stories. So the unit for us is the story. How is a story told? And what are the tools that you can put in someone's hand to make that storytelling better? So that's one type of answer that one can give. The other type of answer is, what would you do when you were thinking about printing? So let's take an extreme example, which is a newspaper. In a newspaper, what you're going to see is, you're going to see paper that's very, very absorbent, and you're going to see high-speed presses, which are web presses. So web is basically a roll of paper hurtling through at a speed which is not even measured in sheets. So it's measured in meters per second. Okay, so it's like a really industrial process. It's now, because of both these reasons, what happens to the appearance of type, in particular type at small sizes, is something that you have to learn to predict. And one of the ways that we did do that when we worked for Economic Times is we actually took the scanned newspaper, we compared it with the digital page, and we looked at the scanned newspaper at very high resolutions, at say 15 to 1600 pixels per inch. Yeah. And when we saw that, we could actually estimate how much swelling there was. And we were able to rework that in our application programs to stroke the lettering, so that when we printed the result through our digital printer in the office, which is a high resolution laser device, we were able to match the density and kind of match the feel of that, and keep working. So those kinds of things happen. So a lot of this is micro typography decisions. But they're also related to other things, typographic decisions. For example, economy. So economy and legibility is the classic balance. Just a second. That's a classic conflict or balance that you have in something like a newspaper. Less so in a magazine, but to an extent in a magazine. So how do you ensure a certain number of words? So publishers are often looking for more and more. Now, if you're a publisher like the Times of India, then your thinking is that you are everything to everybody. So the Times of India is the least specialist newspaper. It's trying to be a mass newspaper as well as it's trying to be a leading newspaper, which is also, approved by the intelligentsia, by government, and so on. So it's everything to everybody. such a newspaper looks very hard for economy and legibility, this particular balance. So they say that, Samir Jain told me each word is worth $5,000 to me. I just think like that and do it. So it's when we did that, then we began learning why is it that certain typefaces are favored and why is it that that thing works extremely well. And there's more to this story, but it'll become very technical.
I understand. So, definitely, I think one big note was, I wouldn't call it a hack, but a good tip is, look at it in 1500 DPI. You'll understand exactly, the swelling and the other specifics. The second thing I was, keen to know, since you mentioned certain typefaces work, would you be okay to share what typefaces you think you would recommend when it comes to printing projects?
No, that's too broad a question.
Okay.
We have been designing typefaces for thousands of years, hundreds of years, and there's a reason for which all those things got designed, right?
Well, I mean, if I can, maybe make it more streamlined, then like packaging design, you could say, or no, you don't want to reveal any specific names. Okay.
No, it's not about revealing.
Okay.
It would be foolish of me to answer. Let's put it that way. But now if you come to newspapers, and if you look at body copy, and if you look at the balance between legibility and economy, certain typefaces have just performed very, very well. And one of them is a typeface called Nimrod, which is used by the Times of India.
Nimrod, okay.
And we introduced it into the Economic Times as well, because what they were using at that time was not a typeface specialized for newspapers. And this has solved many of the problems. So there are things like when the letters are printed in very small sizes, how clear are they? Are the features of the letter visible at small sizes? So when you do that and you enlarge that letter, it looks disgusting. But when set at 7 points in that line of newspaper text, it looks great. It looks fine. Yeah. Similarly, it has solved many issues to do with printing by specifically addressing that. It also solves the issue of vertical economy.
So I think till Itu's back, I think, just to sum up what he was saying was Nimrod, which was used, which has proved to be a really economical font. You can actually check out a detailed case study on Itu's website as well. A bunch of details there, yeah.
So vertical economy is more important than horizontal economy. This is a counterintuitive thing, but this is true in newspapers. In other words, how many words you can fit in like this matters less than how many you can fit in like that. That matters more. Okay. This is why Nimrod is the choice of so many publishers who are looking to balance legibility and economy. That's one example I can give you. Outside this, applications like telephone directories, which no longer exist as an application, I can't think of anything today. People are searching for novelty within the bounds of functionality, and they have always done that. This is true. It was true in 1500, 1600, 1700, and it will be true tomorrow. It will be true next century, because human civilization is tied up with ways of writing. Every great civilization has a way of writing.
Got it.
We are greater than others because we have at least 12, right? So one of the things I like doing with foreigners is what I call the currency note trick, right?
Okay.
So you show them the 12 languages,
yep,
or the 9 scripts, I think, and you say all of these are scripts, and they are different enough that speakers of one language can't read the other. Yeah, yet this is one country. So the currency note trick works very well. So Maybe we are greater than others, but every great civilization is tied up with that. So that's, I believe, is going to be a permanent feature of what we do.
Got it. Got it. Awesome, Itu. So thanks a ton for that. I'd like to move to the next question, which is another thing which I've been getting is I definitely feel that you've got like immense amount of knowledge here, and almost, I mean, you're like a great printing geek. Maybe you have been from a while. How can someone essentially upskill or upskill themselves in the printing domain? Do you have any suggestions where somebody can go somewhere and get more knowledge?
Well, I used to answer that question in a very different way 10 years ago. So I now find that, okay, here's what happened in the printing industry. In the earlier way in which you communicated with the printing industry, you communicated with basically one color, that was black. And color is something that was built up later. So, or you had a physical color, like you had a picture which you wanted someone to reproduce. So a lot of it was done through verbal instructions and through physical samples. And when this happened, a lot of the onus was on the printer. Right? When the digital world came on, all of this information was contained inside a thing called a file. All of that information. And at that time, we went through a period where the onus passed entirely onto the designer. Now, when this was happening, it called into question a designer's understanding of things like offset technology, of plates and inks and process and half-tone screens. And I still explain that stuff, because even when you're doing digital printing in true offset, you're printing dots, and dots are themselves made up of cells. And I teach people why is it that these devices are several thousand PPI devices, whereas the images that you scan are only 300 PPI kind of scans. PPI, I'm talking about pixels per inch, right? So I'm not using the word dots because in offset printing, dot has a meaning. So that kind of training I used to impart, and I still impart it, because people should not be innocent about the files that they use. So there's a criminal degree of innocence, and that's easily resolved. Just experience teaches you that, but I can teach that to anybody. I do all the time in our studio. But that degree of understanding of offset processes, which I find missing from people now, it doesn't seem to be hurting them that much.
Okay.
Right? So once again, now what has happened is, because of better display devices, more understanding between print suppliers and print buyers, right? There is a kind of comfort that a designer has कि मैं कुछ design करूँगा और बात बन जाएगी. So we are no longer at that stage where the printing vendor would say मुझे नहीं मालूम साहब, आपने फाइल में जो दिया वो मैंने print कर दिया and I don't know anything. So we are back at the stage where a partnering relationship has re-emerged, or where the printer is in fact saying chill, दिख रहा है, I know what to do, हो जाएगा. With digital, that's even easier. So I would even question, do I need to upskill anything in digital? I'm not sure I need to. I do need to understand some digital things, like what the F is resolution. I mean, for some reason, people take a long time understanding it. Okay. So I tell people things like, don't just read a file that says 72 dpi so it's low resolution. Kisne bola? So this, you start at this very innocent level, and that kind of stuff can be easily taught. Now the nuances of offset printing, or for that matter, we work in packaging. It's different when you're working with flexography, if you're working with plastic, or you're working with dry offset methods, like you're working with printing on, say, an aluminum can. And that is where you need some specialized knowledge, and that's not going to come to you unless you understand that process, know what it is, and you've experienced it. That you have to understand by doing. But then, will you work on an aluminum can? Maybe not.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that I have very concrete advice to give. I wouldn't say there is a course. I'm sure there's a course. There's a course for everything.
Of course.
But what you need to know is more at the digital end of the way in which you work with files, what your applications are doing, and that's reasonably simple to learn. I mean, for me, I'm easily able to impart that to the people I meet. It's not painful at all. So it's not like I would say in 2005. In 2005, standard part of working at ICT was coaching on the offset process. CMYK, special colors, trapping, overprinting, whatever, knockouts, overprinting, how to handle that in software, what do they mean, press chalo, press jao, press dekho. Now that is whole path is considerably easier. A part of that is due to digital printing solutions which people are using for things like proofing and for communication. So the supplier-buyer communication has been eased very considerably, with printers willing to say that yes, my chosen method of digital proofing is quite reliable and mota moti aisa hi dikha dunga, and they are able to tune that machine to give results on a paper which are fairly close. Okay, yes, it does need some interpretation and judgment to what will happen when it is printed at high volume on a high volume press, a non-digital high volume press.
Understood. Understood. So, just a follow-up question, Nitu, like you mentioned, for example, an aluminum can. Let's say the first time you got to working on it, or maybe there is somebody from the audience who gets on a specific material which they have to print on. What I was essentially trying to get was, how can I prep myself better to ensure that my output is going to be looking well? Is it a trial and error process, or are there certain things you have?
No, you just have to get to the people who actually operate that process. You have to actually understand what is this method of offset in which there is no overprinting possible. Why is no overprinting possible? Why would someone come up with something as dumb as that? Well, there's a good reason for it. Why is it that you are transferring all the colors, 6 or 7 inks onto a single plate, one plate, as opposed to 6 different plates? You're offsetting it all onto one plate. That's what the term offset means. And then you're rolling a can over it. Why are you doing that? So once you understand that, and then you understand the limitations of the plates themselves, and here this is quite close to understanding traditional printing. You have to get into that detail. So there are certain limitations based on whether these plates are laser etched or whether they are etched using photosensitive kind of techniques, whether they're exposed using lights or whether they are burnt using laser. Both technologies exist in India. Okay, and the actual properties of the plate, the physical material properties of the plate, determine the limits of printability. Yeah. Now there are also digital can printing solutions, and they don't entirely transcend these limitations, and that has to do with the shape of the can.
Got it.
In aluminum can, because an aluminum can is not born straight, it's not born as a flat surface and becomes round, it's born round.
Understood.
So yeah, so it's like imagine a sock, you like the socks you wear, rolled up, and then you push your fist or your foot through it, what happens? It comes out like that, right? Like one piece.
Correct.
So aluminum can is like printing on a sock. Correct. It is not like a flat cloth which you take like a shirt and then you stitch it up and make something out of it.
I understand.
So for those few applications, you have to get deep into it.
Correct.
If you're doing a newspaper, you have to understand newsprint. I mean, with those exceptions said, I would say life is very smooth, and a fair degree of ignorance can be tolerated.
Mhm, mhm.
Look at what's happened to motor cars. You don't know the first thing about your car engine.
True.
They don't break down. Modern cars are much, much more reliable. With regular servicing, nothing happens. You don't need to know. Most people I know उन्होंने bonnet खोल के भी नहीं देखा.
Correct. Correct.
So somebody asked me, "Have you looked inside the bonnet of your car?" I said, "Yes, I did on the day I bought it." And some days back, I looked at it because a lot of leaves, dead leaves, had gathered in it, so I swept them off. But really, like we grew up seeing cars, seeing radiator, pankha, fan, belt. I mean, half these systems don't exist,
Mhm, mhm.
right? And the degree of electronics that there now is, and you don't know really what's happening. The same thing is true in digital photography. So while we are democratizing digital photography, etc., not too many people who haven't worked exclusively with or extensively with DSLR cameras understand, say, aperture or shutter speeds, and this is important because these things have got aesthetic implications as well. They are not just some nerdy things that you had to learn to take a picture and now you don't need it because everything can be clicked. Yes, it can. Everything can be clicked easily, like this picture. I'm coming to you on, but there are aesthetic implications,
Got it.
right? And so it's something like that. Now, just like you don't know the first thing about your car or your computer,
Yeah.
so that we are reaching there.
Understood. Understood. So I think absolutely.
Because the problem of communication was the main one, and that problem has been breached.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, yeah, I mean, like you very well mentioned, I think things are much easier now with all the advancements, and I think whenever it comes to something very specific, you have to go deep, collaborate with the people who have actually
No
been
option.
there. I've understood.
Yeah, you're not going to escape the physical world ever.
Correct, absolutely. So, I mean, we are towards the last few minutes of our session before, after that we'll go to the panel. So, wanted to just take in some questions from the audience. Now, there are a ton of them, so I don't know if I can, address all, but I'll try to group them for you. There are a lot of people who are in fact asking, about selecting a specific paper for a project. So if they come up with a certain idea or a concept, do you have like a cheat sheet of sorts, or which you follow to derive upon what paper works for you? No.
Economics would be a starting point.
Okay.
Like for digital printing, we know that smallish runs and is a starting point. You're not doing too much printing. The book that you're printing, or the magazine, or the thing that you're printing isn't itself very voluminous. In other words, what we used to call the extent of the publication isn't very large, and the run isn't very large, and then digital printing kind of works out, and you can justify even when it doesn't work out to a degree, but still it's always and still going to prejudice you for small runs. And that's because of the high capital costs involved. There may be low setup costs, but the capital costs are quite high, which explains why there are only, for example, 300 Indigo devices in India. The last time I asked some years ago, I mean, there was a time when it was 2 digits, and it's nice to know that it's now 300.
Yeah.
That's the number I got the other day. So for these reasons, that's how it's going to be. So similarly, paper economics will be dictated by the same things. You have a wonderful set of choices, but you don't always have a short supply. So you're always going to be checking to see what's there and what's not there. Things are much better than they were. But the chance that you would be like a person in Hong Kong who can actually have the catalog of a mill with him and order the paper and import the paper and have it come in the next 4 or 5 days, that probably isn't going to happen. So there is that pragmatism, there is economics, and then of course you come down to the question of aesthetics, and you have to see what type of project it is. The first place I would ask is fidelity important or is effect important? So this answer is not always straightforward. I mean, if you're doing even a photo book, you're trying to very often give a certain flavor to the images, which means you're choosing paper to give a certain image or a certain ambience or atmosphere, not the absolute color fidelity.
Correct. Correct.
So you are actually sacrificing, you're printing on a smaller gamut with a smaller dynamic range, and etc. etc. I'm just using technical language to describe things that are true of images in general, right?
Yeah.
But you're sacrificing those things in order to get that effect. So that's question number one. Once you answered that question, you can make choices based on economy. So I would say this is the key desideratum. The key decision making point would be, I would look at color. Then I'd look at things like, is there a lot of flat color? What sort of grounds are there? Are we looking for an impression where the paper shows through, or are we looking at something which is fairly heavy deposition kind of thing? So what's that doing? Stiffness of the paper, weight of the paper. I mean, these are all fairly common sense things, but I would advise today it's very easy for you to get the real paper, to do digital proofing, digital sampling. We do that a lot, so that you can get a much closer idea of what the thing feels like in your hand.
Awesome. Got it. So it's a blend of the creative direction, the aesthetic, along with the economics, and then as you mentioned, it's so much easier now to actually get sampling done in low quantity. So you can
right, and in that respect, Avirup, nothing much has changed. It's just that the communication with the printer and what your prediction of what's going to happen is easier because of digital printing.
Got it. Absolutely. Got it. Ritu. So, I think last couple of minutes, so I'm just going to go with, one broad question everybody's asking, which is in the upcoming decade where obviously a lot of things are moving digital, how do you stay relevant as a print focused designer?
Well, our practice now is not at all print focused. So, maybe in value terms, the website of our practice is much larger than the print side of our practice. But in any case, we don't think like that. Print, web, it's just not how we do it. We actually don't care what we are designing, right? We are actually saying, what is it that has to be done? What is it that has to be said? Why is it that has to be said? So as long as you're focusing on those things, you're in the game. You're not in the game by saying that we are focusing on print, or we are very good at digital printing. So what? So nothing. We know how to do websites. Okay, so what? I mean, so we do. Right behind me, you can see, I don't know, 2 monitors.
Yeah.
Can you see them? Both those guys are coders. So we develop websites. We do a lot of our development work in-house. Our team is very fluent and fluid, so they're able to switch from what you call a print project, which we just call a project, to working on a website. And people are fluent in both these languages, if you like.
Sure.
So in value terms, we are might be more of, if you're doing branding for someone today, you're thinking about digital, right? Yes. If you were thinking about images in the past, you're thinking about video now, right? That's just the nature of the world.
Absolutely. So, a common conversation we've seen on this specific topic is, how print definitely, as of now, at least as of 2021, technically has more reach, and at the same point in time, there's always a question of, sustainability also, which comes up. So, is it that people need to kind of go more down the vernacular route? Is there a way we can make things more sustainable?
No, I think the death of print has been predicted too many times, and it's just stupidity. The thing is that people want physical things. So I used to write a column. The column stopped because the edition stopped, but I wrote a column for a few years, and one of my favorite themes was people cling to what is physical. Right? Part of the reason why demonetization is awkward is that despite the convenience of paying electronically, people value physical money. they understand it better.
Correct.
If you are today, I'm just working for a client in my last meeting who runs educational institute. They're reaching out to prospects. They're selling. Everything is happening digitally. Everything is online. Even the brochure is being taken by to the customer online on a mobile phone. So I'm saying, so why are you working? Why are you working? Why are you making a print brochure? Let's do a mobile experience. And then we thought about it for a while, and we realized that people not trust you with that. The trust, you may learn everything on the mobile, on a phone call, on a Zoom call, on a group call, on a webinar, whatever.
Yeah.
But finally, जब हाथ में पकड़ते हो ना, that's when you say, I trust this.
Absolutely.
Just like one of the reasons we'll have offices, and I've written about this, is that you trust a place which got an office.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're just a person at the end of a phone. It's only when I meet you that face to face that I can have a conversation with you, in which I can trust you. So I tell our team that I want to be able to infect you. So I want to work with you because I want to infect you, not because I want to give you COVID, but because I can get co-vidya, we can teach each other things in person. So physique is going to be very important, things you can touch.
Got it, absolutely.
आप पैकेजिंग से नहीं हट सकते. Nobody is going to ever create a situation where they're going to say अपनी बोतल ले आओ और मैं आपको परफ्यूम दे देता हूँ, बताओ कितनी चाहिए. वो नहीं होगा. वो हो सकता है डिटर्जेंट में होगा, but it's not going to happen for a whole category of things. So we want to touch, we want to hold, we want to feel.
Got it. So I think
वो जाने नहीं वाला कहीं जल्दी. And I keep saying, I wrote a newsletter about it 2 weeks back that print is dead yet again, and no one looks at the evidence. The numbers can be going sky high. India is still a country achieving literacy.
True.
So as long as this is happening, people are going to be reading.
Correct.
Right. Now, there's so many advantages of the print world as opposed to the digital world. When you read the Times of India online, I don't know whether you saw the same Times of India as me because it's personalized.
Correct.
But when we read the newspaper, you saw the same Times of India as me. So I can ask you, आज Times of India में story निकली थी, देखी? Now we both know that is something. Uska value is much higher in credibility terms than the information that I got online.
True.
Because that is targeted. So actually, ironically, ulta hai. Social media are personal.
Yeah.
And broadcast media are social.
Correct. Absolutely.
So this is not about, I know this is not about digital printing, but it's about communication. So that's the area in which we live.
True.
We are not per se interested in digital or not digital or I'm interested in it because I love technology, so I'm interested, but this is not our life's blood, if you know what I mean.
Understood. So unfortunately we have to kind of end this session, but I think what you meant towards the end as people really want physical things. It has an intrinsic value, and also you can trust it. So I think that's definitely there, and it's not going to go anywhere. So thanks a ton. I think this was a fantastic session. We really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else did. There are a ton of questions coming, guys, and don't worry, we will have a proper Q&A round in about 20 minutes from now. So please stick along, and we'll do a panel discussion with Mr. Edith Chaudhary and Mr. Durai from HP. But thanks a ton, Neetu. I think it was an absolute honor to moderate you today, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of insights from me as well. So thanks a ton.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neetu. Great. So next up, guys, I'd love to introduce you guys to Mr. Appa Durai. He's the country manager at HP Indigo and Inkjet Solutions. Mr. Durai will be sharing anecdotes of what's new at HP and how it creates value for print designers of today and tomorrow. So pleasure to have you, Mr. Durai. Welcome.
No, absolute pleasure. Before even I could begin, Salute, salute, salute. What an encyclopedia you've been. I'm actually cursing myself for not knowing you before, Mr. Chowdhury. Lovely. It was excellent to hear you. And this concept of mainstreaming, believe me, everything which you spoke resonated 100% with me. Thank you, Itu, for this. Appreciate it. Okay. Look, and for me, it's a pleasure to talk to the community of designers who I believe are the creators of the world in all true sense of all the work that you guys do. Now, I'm going to keep it very simple. To go after Ethu is very difficult. So, what I'm going to stick to in the next 10 to 15 minutes is do a dummy session of 2 minutes of what is this technology about and the myths which exist about digital printing, 2 minutes only, and then give you 5 awesome examples of the capabilities that digital has got today, at least HP has got today, which we think you are probably not aware. Okay, and just 5 examples, and then we can kind of sum it up and go back to listening to Ethu there. Yeah. Now, I want to get started by actually showing you the fundamental differences which exist in the world of digital printing. Because if you understand this, you would really understand everything that we would talk about in the printing process, which Mr. Ethu was explaining. Yeah. So just to classify digital technologies into 4 broad areas. One is a technology which Ethan was talking about, which cost is absolutely low. Xerography as a technology, you have it around the street corners for doing the proofing and stuff like that. That's one. Then we talk about the inkjet technologies, both the water-based and the UV, and then explain the difference of how HP Indigo is different. Right now, the basic simple printing process, this is kind of a zoomed vision of ink on paper, right? In xerography, this xerography is a technology which uses powder as a pigment or color there. They actually put the powder and apply heat on top of the powder so that the powder fuses with the paper, right? And that's when you get the color outputs as you see it in picture number 1 on the left side, right? The problem with this technology is it produces only and only flat outputs, which means it basically takes away the properties of the paper and gives you a flat output. It could be gloss, it could be matte, depending on whether you use oil or don't use oil. It gives you flat output. Designers like you, most of the times, don't like it, and and then they earn the bad name for digital printing. So it's important for you to know, if you're abusing digital printing, please be sure that you're abusing xerography in digital printing. Okay. The next technology, which is coming up nowadays, is the inkjet technology, which people talk about widely, saying it's coming up. But let's understand the technology here. In this technology, instead of using powder, they use 99% water, right? And that's where you actually start seeing water. Water, because of the density of the ink, it starts seeping into the media itself. So you don't really get the output that you really want, which you see in image number 3 here, right? And to conquer this problem, people came out with something called as UV inkjet, which kind of changed the game completely, where the particle sizes become so heavy and it still produced the flat output, which is what you see in picture number 2. Okay, so these 3 are digital technologies. Maybe designers don't like it, so next time when you abuse, be specific in the abuse. The last one which you're seeing is the Indigo technology, which is called the digital offset technology, where we work on 1 micron particle size of liquid electro ink, and we follow the curvature of the paper. The only thing which you have to remember is it's a translucent ink, which then lets light pass through it, and the media is respected, the properties of the media are shown. This is as simple as it is for HP Indigo technology. Last time when we spoke to a set of designers, we had a quick poll, which we're not doing now because we know the results. We asked them, tell us the most favorite technology of yours. I mean, which technology do you love? If I ask this question today, I can hear the answers. If I ask this Ethu, if he wants to unmute and he can say, there are 99% chances that he will say, I love offset. People swear by offset because that's the epitome of quality in printing, right? What I actually wanted to show you is Indigo actually took the offset technology. It exactly uses offset technology where we use a plate and a blanket, which transfers, plate to blanket, the ink is transferred, and blanket to paper, the ink is transferred by the offsetting process of ink, hot to cold, right? The only difference is these are completely virtual. It's not physical aluminum plates which has to be written and rewritten. It's actually virtual. The image is written by photo as the technology, and then cleaned up for every single pass through of the plate to blanket to cylinder. So we use the offset technology. So we in fact get out of the issues that even conventional offset have with dot gains and dot losses and stuff like that. So ultimately, you want to get the best output possible in the media that you choose and through a technology which is very, very friendly in the sense like it can do short range, it can do effective purpose of the document could be met if it's personalized and stuff, right? Today, when Neetu was talking about non-personalized Times of India, we're working on a couple of projects with very interesting newspapers, which wants to differentiate 17 different types of newspaper that will be circulated in Bombay city. 17 different newspaper, which could be Times of Navi Mumbai, Times of Vashi, Times of uh, you know, Villapala, right? I mean, I think the world is going towards personalization, and that's where advertisers wanting to put the money. So I think digital printing is going to enable personalized services in the print world. Okay, so with that, I will actually move on from the dummies of or the myths of technology which might have been there, and to explain the 5 awesome things that you may not know about HP Indigo. The first and the foremost thing is uh, the technology which I was talking about, which works on the curvature of the paper. Here, I actually used the wrong word. It's not paper. I can print on anything as long as you give it in a 13 by 19 or a 20 by 30 sheet, or a roll of 13-inch or a roll of 30-inch, right? I mean, that's how simply I could define, which means I go beyond printing on paper. One of the examples that you see on the screen is an example of a project that we did for a whiskey company, Jim Beam. Uh, and Jim Beam wanted to actually try out something different. They said, we want to do something which is very unique for our customers. Mother Nature, I mean, like the wood is very unique. Every wood is very unique. The textures are very different. So we actually printed on wood veneer. This is actually wood veneer, but it can come in a roll form, right? We could actually print on a wood veneer. The background becomes different. And these were handwritten bottles of limited edition numbers, which was like 1,250 bottles were sold with the signature of the distiller there, right? Projects like this, I gave this extreme example of printing on wood veneer just to tell you the possibilities that exist with Indigo digital printing, because we work on the concept of digital offset. Again, it's not just wood veneer. You can print on plastics. People print on metallized film. People print on aluminum, general films. And when Itu was giving this PhD kind of topic of printing an aluminum can, I was actually laughing because we just print on a shrink sleeve and put it over the aluminum can, right? I mean, shrink sleeves is one of the materials that we could print on, right? Which is very different from the rest of all digital technologies that you would compare. So if you want to close your eyes and remember what Indigo can print on, as long as you can give the media in form of a roll or in form of the sheet sizes that I can take, I can actually print on them, most of it. Okay, so that's something which is awesome and which you may not know. I'm going to get to the second awesome thing that we do. Uh, Life for us is not about just 4 colors, which most of you are used to with digital printing. I think we, as a foundation, we built our technology as Hexachrome, and then we have a choice of printing up to 7 colors. This orange, violet, green is making such a difference to the gamut that we could actually cover. Today, we are very proud to have the highest coverage of 97% of the colors that are defined by Pantone. All right, makes a huge difference, especially around the packaging side of the business, where a ton of a green comes into play. And again, orange, very, very difficult colors to reproduce in the even in the conventional technology which you love, which is offset, right? I'm going to go to the third jaw-dropping thing which is happening in the market today. And this is massive, big news, guys. This was about 2 years back that we actually were trying to fiddle with this concept of introducing a metallized ink, which can even work variably, right? I mean, you all know silver or gold as foils. Most of them are foils, right? And there is a ton of a wastage that you do. Then you're restricted to things that you can, very restricted things that you could do. But if silver becomes an ink, just imagine this can revolutionize the whole way design and printing happens around high value documents or high value designs that you could do, right? Silver has become an ink for us now. So in the last 1 year, we've been ramping up the silver production. And in Bombay City, which most of you are, I guess, from, you have an option to print on silver with at least 2 or 3 people in Bombay City, right? And this is changing the whole way designs were done before and saving a ton of money as well. So this is something which is awesome. I would love to send you samples whenever you want. I will possibly get to the contact page. We would really be happy to share real life touch and feel samples that Ethu was talking about, right? Awesome thing number 3. And this, before I got here, I should have given. So I was speaking to my wife, who had worked with designers before, and I asked her if I were to make a cut. I don't look like I would appeal to the designers like what Itu is. I asked her, what is that you can do? She said, number one, you need to have a long hair, which you don't have. Second, you should have been a Charsi to impress the designers. You're not. So the only option that you're left with is talk about something which is gray and black and white, right? People, for some reason, all these designers that, according to her, just go crazy when you talk something about black and white, right? And then I actually go back and trace, yeah, some of the conversations that I've had with designers have all been, you know, when I showed them a black and white book, which had 256 shades of black there, right? Which is where we introduced about many years back, actually, we introduced something called as light black ink. Light black ink is basically, for people who worked on the photography side, would very well understand something called as gray balance. It's basically an additional ink that you provide, which gets you multiple different shades of black, which people like you love. And some of the most award-winning print jobs have been on black and white purely because the shares, again, for us, we would love to prove all this by sending physical printed samples to all of you. So I would get to the page where I really talk about this. Then going to awesome thing number 4, I think one of the biggest thing that we do is something called as fluorescent inks, which is again very unique to our technology here. We've introduced a set of uh, a big set of fluorescent inks like the pink, the yellow, and the orange and the green. These are revolutionizing a lot of signage material that goes into bars, restaurants, to even supermarkets, which wants to get the attention of people um, uh, by just grabbing their eyeballs and saying, okay, I'm here, right? Again, these samples are not only making a difference in the point of sale material, but also making a big difference in an area called kids book, especially the storybooks. These guys, kids get attracted to fluorescent color 10 times more faster than what an adult would actually. So today we're printing a ton of projects which are kids book around the fluorescent colors. Awesome thing number 5. This is something which was born out of India as an innovation. uh, in India, I think wedding market is one of the markets that we really play big time, and we have a 80% market share in the Indian wedding industry, which basically means in the last 10 years, if you got married and you printed your wedding album, there's 1 out of 2 chances that the album was printed on the HP Indigo presses. Now, in India, because of the affluency that is coming in, you're bringing in costume designers who want to design a pink color, which is never before used pink color, right? Merawala pink types, right? And pink is one of the colors which are very, very difficult to reproduce in print. I mean, digital offset, any technology, it's an extremely difficult color to reproduce. So we actually did a lot of innovations. We had 3 scientists from our Israel factory camping in India for 2.5 years to study this market, to go back and invent something which is a very special ink called the Vivid Pink and the Vivid Green, right? And that's changing the way that the photo industry in India is working today, right? And some of other functional inks that we have is something called as the scratch off ink. All of you know scratch offs, where you see this big silver strip. The big silver strip now is being replaced with a 4-color printing. So you will see a 4-color document, like any normal page, but you can actually scratch off the ink to, get a code, to win a lottery, to do anything. I mean, fun exercises there, right? So again, this is something which is revolutionizing the gaming industry that we're working with. So 4-color scratch offs, which you really don't see with possibly any other technology, I would say. Any other technology that I would say. Right. The last but not the least, again, around the functional side, security printing is something which we do big time. We have something called as invisible ink, which glows under the UV lamp, and we've actually been doing some really high secure projects, including the IPL tickets that we do, where the serial numbers are printed both in the actual black color and also in the invisible ink, and at the entrance of the stadium you check for the fidelity there. If the number doesn't match, you're thrown out, and BCCI saves a ton of money by a possible counterfeited ticket, right? I mean, this is just a simple example, but I think this is working very well in the book industry, the concerts, movie industry, anything which is limited edition, high value stuff. This is also making a huge amount of difference on the packaging business that we do around the wine bottle labels. A wine which is sold at probably $100 or 10,000 rupees, which is being counterfeited, could be really taken care well if you start having features like security printing on the label, which provides a huge amount of convenience to the wine company in terms of checking the fidelity of this, educating the retailers about the features which are there, and it's very difficult for a counterfeiter to even get to what you're thinking there. So invisible ink, again, making a big difference out of the security. So 2 functional awesome things that are available in printing with HP Indigo, right? That's more or less what I wanted to share, with one last comment about sustainability. Everybody talks about sustainability today, and if you're not talking sustainability, you're a moron, right? I mean, that's how the world has really taken sustainability today, right? I think digital printing is the most sustainable printing technology that has ever existed, because unfortunately the sustainability topic today is boiling down just to plastic. People are against plastic. Is, yeah, one of the areas, but that's not the biggest area. In fact, plastic in some cases is more sustainable than transporting bottles and bottles of glass bottles with spending so much of fuel, right? So you got to look at sustainability in a very different, comprehensive way. Water usage in printing is one of the biggest culprit. They said the next war is not going to be fought on petrol; it's going to be fought on water. And you have examples in a country like India where water is contributing to big problem between states. Digital printing, gentlemen and ladies, does not use any water. I mean, the most greenest technology in printing. So look, I think if you're not uh, uh, seeing the sustainability in a comprehensive in all 360 degrees, you're making a mistake. I just want to leave with one statistic that we collected by a survey, where 89% of the brands say sustainability has been one of the top 3 goals for them in any time, whatever they write down in their offices, which is on their website and stuff, right? Fact number one, or only one fact which you have to look at: 25% of the printed packaging material is never used, or it is actually destroyed without seeing the day of its light of its day. right? Because one, the MOQ was very high, so you actually printed more than what you needed. Two, designs change much faster. COVID changed the whole world and the way the brands were reacting to it. So changes happen very fast, right? And then 50% of the changes come in because of the regulations of FSSAI to anybody, or the industry bodies, right? So 25% of the printed material never gets used. Believe me, if you do digital printing, you're going to save that 25%, which is 1/4 of the wasted material in the world could be saved. And this is, much higher than all the other plastics that you guys are trying to save there, right? So if you're not designing for digital printing or packaging, you you know you have a chance. Basically, please become one. Start designing your jobs, print projects or your projects, which could be printed digitally, right? So I think with that, I really want to ask you to take your phone or use your screen snip tool to copy the contact details. Ashish, our business development manager, would be very happy to send you any samples that you might need for you to hold it in your hands and see what digital printing can do to your business. Thank you so much, Anitu. It was a pleasure knowing you, Vitu. Kavan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Durai. I think that was a fantastic session. I personally felt that the whole invisible ink bit is super cool and very valuable. I've been also following that up. So I think thanks a ton for showing us a bunch of things. My question to you was going to be how can the audience members can actually like try these things out, and I think you've given that number. So thanks for kind of proactively sending that across. So now, guys, I'd love to invite Itu back in. Itu, if you're there, please tune in. We are going to do a combined panel discussion with Itu and Mr. Durai. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to send in some things, and somebody from the team will be curating them. Again, we have barely 15 minutes, so we'll try to make the most of that. Great. Itu, are you? Yeah. Hi. So a bunch of questions. Some of them I have, I think, based on the whole technology bit, and some bit are on printing, design, and just generally running a creative business. So I'll start with first asking you, Itu. We have someone asking, at what point in time in someone's career is it a good time to start off on their own? And also, is it a good time for you to start a print-focused business?
Anytime is a good time. No, there is no such thing as a print-focused business.
Okay.
It's the sooner you realize that, the better it is. You're in the problem-solving business. So when Mr. Durai says we can print a bottle in silver, then the importance of that is that there is a place for bottles printed in silver. There is a use for that. Somebody wants it for a reason. It has economics that are justifiable or not, or whatever. So that all of that is a problem that you have to deal with. So I think communication is important. Print is definitely one of the things you must have in your pocket. There is no doubt about it. But print focused, I don't even know why anyone would do that. The right time to start a business is when you have a fantastic idea which addresses a problem that people want addressed and can pay for, even if they can't see it at the moment. That's the right time to start a business. If you simply mean by right time to start a business, if you mean time to start working for yourself instead of working for someone else, then that's a very personal thing. But if you mean business as in something that is genuinely a business, not a service, then I think what you're looking for is the idea. For that matter, even a service, it's getting harder and harder to just come in there and say, I'm damn good. So, you need to say, what is the problem you're solving, for whom?
Understood, guys. So basically, it's the idea and the solution which you're doing, and of course, in 2021, I think having a holistic solution to, every to your offerings would be very, very important.
Just like in 1421.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Next question I have for you, Mr. Durai. There are quite a few people who had asked, and I think you covered this in your slide. Was the Pantone matching system always is sometimes very irritating for designers, where you create something, you print it out, and something else comes all together. And I know that you have tools which actually make it quite easy. So maybe even Itu, you could kind of come in and give a tip. But I wanted to ask Mr. Durai is how can any designer, a young designer, how can they access this technology? Is there a specific range of products I should be aware of, or a place I should be aware of? It'll be great to get your thoughts there.
I think the technology has evolved tremendously, I would say, and I want to meet the guy who still thinks we cannot match a Pantone, and we will be very happy to help them. Look, I think one of the recent introductions that we've had in our technology is something called as a Spot Master. What it basically does is, you give your shade, and in a matter of few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, we can get the exact Pantone match of the color that you want, right? And then it goes into the profile. And it just does an amazing job there. The new technology called Spotmaster, it enables, and most of our new age machines are capable of doing it. We are happy to guide you to the person who can do this for you in Bombay, Delhi, wherever you want. That's one. Number two, some spot colors, for example, Coca-Cola Red, right? End of the day, technology and the consumables, blankets, everything have a life, right? And the inks could be different based on the type of printing. So we even go to the extent of manufacturing a particular spot color at our factory level. So Coca-Cola Red is an ink for us. So we manufacture Coca-Cola Red at any time we want. We use this, we supply this to printers across the world. So Coke is assured of the Pantone color, whether they print it in Chennai or Bombay or San Francisco or Hong Kong, right? So, that's again a step additional to that. One of the best things for you to learn there is just go do a Google of Pantone swatch book plus Queen. Okay, so this was a project that Pantone did a couple of years ago. They wanted to launch the new set of Pantone book, and they took a beautiful concept of taking the Queen of England. Queen of England wears a monotone dress, right? I mean, the hat, the top, and the bottom is monotone, right? They actually picked and designed the Queen Pantone swatch book, which was printed on the indigo. So why I'm seeing this is, this kind of goes and proves the accuracy of color when Pantone chooses to do their swatch book on the indigo, right? Last but not the least, in Korea and also in India now, we're doing a label project on a tester. It basically does the blood testing, and based on the color that the tester turns to, your disease is identified, right? It is like 6 or 7 colors that the tester turns into after taking your blood, right? That is printed on the indigo. Just imagine the slightest of variation that I might have on the tester label could mean life-threatening issues. So people trust this with their life when it comes to the color. So Kavan, 4 different answers, but I think what I want to say is technology's evolved. We're happy to help you to get the Pantone that you want.
Awesome. I think the first thing you mentioned about like a repository would be super helpful. As a designer myself, when you don't have that exposure, when you're like just out there or just getting into college or just out of college, it's difficult to find those trusted people who can really print something great. Like as there are still people who ask for CorelDRAW files. So I think that repository would be a great thing. Maybe it's an Indigo approved or something on that sort, where we know who to go to when we need to go and get that execution done, because the technology exists. It's just the distribution is a little bit difficult for the designer to understand as to where to go. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Itu, next specific question for you from Kashish. I'm just reading it out now. Itu, you mentioned vertical economy matters more in newspapers, where type size is as small as a 7 point. Is it a notion that large X height would improve legibility and readability? And if so, how to maintain the balance?
Yeah, actually X height will, but then there's a limit to how tightly you can lead type before that starts working against you. So this is a slightly technical subject. I would ask Kashish to contact me offline and I'll discuss it with him. Instead, I take up the question you asked Mr. Durai. And so I think what HP focuses a lot on in its communication is you think of what you can do and we can do it because we can do anything. This is what I heard a lot of that from, and that's good to hear. But I think we should be alive to the possibility that you don't know what you want, right? And that what Indigo does is beyond what you thought of. So when you're dealing with a technology, a useful thing to do is to not freeze the thought completely, but with a still liquid design, go to the supplier, whether he's a screen printer or an Indigo printer, right? Or a Mochi or whatever he is, and say, look, this is what I'm planning to do. Do you have something interesting for me? It's the language of specification that I tell you something so exactly and then can you do that or not do that is less productive conversation than and slight overlap. I'm not saying you start the process by saying, okay, I'm going to design on Indigo, but if you're going to work with Indigo, stop at 75% and do the rest 25% when you're talking to somebody in Indigo, because eventually it's not did you match an exact red that I give you, but does that thing look awesome on my pack, my whatever, my whatever, my whatever. So I'm looking for awesome, and there's no Pantone shade called awesome. So the only way I can figure that out is by getting rid of the specification and saying, let's try this out in a few ways. What can you do? What do you suggest? Learn from the Indigo printer. Don't treat him as a software interpreter of your code. That's a very, I mean, to me, less productive.
Awesome. I think it well said. I think
joint project.
As you mentioned last time that you can go, and I think collaboration is very important.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So next question, I think a little bit more. I think Mr. Durai, you can choose who would want to answer this. Maybe both of you is a lot of conversations have been happening about 3D printing, and as more and more of it gets it becomes more accessible. You can get it at home. Somebody's asking about 3D textured printing. Is that something HP is working on? Is that something we'll soon be expecting to use?
Okay. Pardon my ignorance. I don't know what a 3D textured printing is, but definitely I know what HP is doing around the 3D. We're definitely not in the space of home, but we are in the space of production level. What we say by this is really trying to, this for me, 3D printing, and this is my personal opinion, 3D printing is the next internet. Might take a little bit of time to comprehend what I said, but this is the next internet in the sense that the way it is going to revolutionize the way we work. I think 3D will take a very, 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 very different level. And we are focusing on the production side of the business, which is we are talking to an integral coach factory, which produces spare parts for railways, to eliminate the warehouses, which is storing 10 crore worth of parts each, and instead buy a 3D printer, which can print parts on demand, right? Every service center of Ford to have a 3D printer where you manufacture parts on demand, right? I mean, things like this, which can change the whole way the world works, is what we are focusing on. Again, please pardon my ignorance. I don't know the textured 3D bit. I apologize.
Itu, do you want to add to the textured printing bit? I have a feeling that what was coming towards is, I think if you have a specific texture in terms of material, if that can be slapped onto.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about it, but I'm a very competitive person, so I want to be better than Mr. Durai. I want to beat him in everything. So I want to say I'm even more ignorant than him. So I'll beat him in that. Okay. So I have heard, I have heard about people talking about it, but I don't know about it, so I should really talk about it. I just generally want to say that in the realm of solutions looking for problems, a very important link is actually the business of painfully designing things which prevents what is supposed to be the next internet from turning into the next toy. And this is a problem that innovation always struggles with. The next internet was supposed to be the Segway. It had Bill Gates, Stephen Jobs as investors. They said it was just called it. It was so secret, it was called it. By a brilliant invent. I'm telling you, the Segway is an awesome piece of technology. You can't imagine that you can learn to write something like this in 5 minutes and tour all of Paris. I did. What is it today? It's become, for what it was supposed to be, change the shape of the world. It doesn't meet any of its use cases except this amusement park kind of thing. You run around with it in a mall and take $100 from somebody for a ride. It's gotten reduced to a show pony. So what's the gap in between? The gap is there's something called innovation, which was Segway does or HP does, and then there's something called design, which is very painful process of saying, where does this fit? Which problems is it solving? Okay, which problems can I create which are very profitable? 3D printing is in that same state today. It's so exciting, right? Even I want a 3D printer.
Absolutely.
But it's in that state. Solutions looking for problems are always going to be there. The human mind is like that. But that next step of painful work has to be done. History is just littered with things that were superior to the existing alternative and never made it.
Absolutely. I think very well said. I'm sure. It more best. That design is essentially meant for humans, and it's supposed to humanize things. Completely.
Design is meant to boringly solve things. Sometimes, there's a lot of brains required to do that. As much brains as it takes to invent something.
Absolutely.
So invention, innovation, design, ये तीन अलग चीजें उसमें the design is the unglamorous part, but that's the part that eventually decides that the Segway is going to work or not work.
Absolutely.
People hate the Segway. If you get on a sidewalk with it, people swear at you. The only reason we survived in Paris is we didn't know French. So our guide told us that if anyone swears at you or does this to you, what this means is he's saying to you, have a nice day. So just go ahead, The car guy hates you. He sees you as a hybrid between a motorcycle, a pedestrian and something. The pedestrian hates you. He thinks you're like a two-wheeler on the footpath. I can say some very elementary things of this nature.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and the bicycle, what's happening to the bicycle? Even BMW makes one, I saw today. Brilliant thing. Gears, bicycle, kya baat.
Great, absolutely. So I think, to sum up that, I think, guys, we can, I think, probably get back to you about the whole textured printing bit, but it really depends on who will end up using it for what and why.
No, I do want to know though. I would be interested in knowing what it is. I definitely.
Absolutely. I'm not an expert as well, so I'll have to even dig deeper and get back to everybody. But I think, going to just towards the last question now, because we are running out of time. Sorry, I think Mr. Durai was saying something. Okay. So I think we've discussed a lot about how, print will be something, as you mentioned, it should be in your pocket. You mentioned, Mr. Durai, that it's got a lot of, scope and things are increasing. As a professional designer, as somebody who's right now just graduated, what should I be looking forward to in the whole print media generally, in the print media industry? What are the needs right now of companies? Maybe there is something which the audience members can tap into and focus on in the future. I'm not saying just as a print business too. I just mean like what are the demands which companies are coming with, clients are coming with, and where should the focus be in the whole print media industry? I would love to hear what both of you have to say.
I have a very sad answer. So one of my favorite jokes in office is going to people who are working in the website on a website and standing behind them and saying, ये कौन से पेपर पे छपेगा?
Okay.
On what paper is the internet printed? Is the internet being printed on glossy stock? ऐसे joke होते हैं. I hope you're getting the message from that.
I'm not sure if I do get it.
I mean, you got to be completely free of media these days. I think that's a message.
Okay.
Your digital game has to be very strong. Your sense of collaboration has to be very strong. Neither on the web nor in print are you going to get the best results working with yourself.
Understood. So I think a cross-functional approach a cross-medium approach, functional approach would definitely help. Mr. Dharai,
medium free, media agnostic.
Media agnostic approach, correct. Mr. Dharai, I think you've worked with a ton of brands, like you were mentioning, with a bunch of people. I think if your insights also would be really, really helpful and validated.
No, absolutely. See, look, I think I'll just go back to answer this exact question of somebody who's just coming out of college. I would go back to actually what Eetu started the whole conversation with. What are you solving? What is the problem that you're solving? I think if they have this approach, print is also a medium. I think they would be able to figure out the answers. And I'll give that one example of a brand that we worked with, where actually interns in their marketing department actually solved a problem, and that became the biggest hit ever. Okay, this is basically a coffee company. Okay, a coffee company in Mexico, which we work with. This coffee company decides that they want to do something drastic in the market to increase their brand value, and they said they had some specialty. They were not procuring. They did not own estates. They were not procuring it from big guys. They were procuring it for small farmers and giving life to many small farmers. They said, I'm going to change the way my brand is perceived. And they said there are 1,000 farmers that we buy coffee from. Okay. And each one has a story. Each family of 4, 5, 6 has a story. I'm going to put their picture and their story on my coffee pouch. And I want to print all the 1,000 of the stories on the coffee pouches and put it in the Walmarts and the Kmarts and the Sainsbury's of the world. Which means, look, from a small village in Mexico, I'm a farmer. I'm on the shelf of Walmart. Guys, you know what it does to the brand? It's phenomenal. People start perceiving this as the most socially responsible brand. From nowhere, 400% sales up, and these small little farmers refuse to give their produce to anybody else than this coffee company. Right? This project was done by interns, just as a as an additional fact, right? I think it goes back to what Eetu said. What problem are you solving? Print is going to be there forever. Packaging, the designers and packaging, you guys are the ones who are going to decide whether the product is sold or not sold. It's no longer the radios and the televisions where if I had a fat money, I buy advertise. That's not going to work, guys, because there is a clutter. People walking in the supermarket aisle holding or seeing your product and then holding your product is what's going to make the sale, right? So designers play a very big role. I really wish you guys the best, considering the time that we've crossed.
Thanks a ton, Mr. Dharai, and thanks so much, Eetu. I think this brings an end to our entire session today. So it was a fantastic one, and I really hope everybody enjoyed it. Eetu, it was an honor, and Mr. Dharai, thanks.
Likewise.
It was a power pack session, Mr. Dharai. Thank you so much.
Look, I'm not going to sleep tonight because of one thing which happened today where Eetu said, I want to beat Dharai. So for me, that's a big privilege. Thank you for this opportunity.
But I want to beat you in ignorance.
Huh. Yeah, super.
There's a wonderful poet called Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, mystic poet, 16th century perhaps, or earlier, 15th, 14th, something like that. He said, "Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment.
Wow.
Be innocent."
Fantastic. I think that's a great note to end the session on. Thank you so much, Mr. Itu. Guys, this brings the the Soul Innovate Possibilities campaign between HP Indigo and Indie Film Network to an end. We had a contest. We had two amazing sessions with design veterans. And just watch this space more. Follow us on our Instagram. Sign up on our platform to hear more coming from HP and Indiefolio very, very soon. Thanks a ton and have a fab Thursday evening, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.